Hey folks, it's Nick Granville. So that was the famous Brian May solo on Bohemian Rhapsody. So I thought I'd do a bit of a breakdown today on how that works and how, my thoughts on it and some things we can learn from it. Now, before anybody says, I'm not trying to be Brian May. That's a different guitar sound. I'm using my setup. I'm using this guitar. I'm not trying to be Brian May. I'm just doing like my kind of take on it. But before anybody says that, had someone once say, oh, you should have been using an AC30 and a red special. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what Brian does. I do what I do. Anyway, so if we look at this, right, there's some awesome phrases in this solo. I'm primarily a jazz guy, but this, one of my top 10 guitar solos, this would be in it. If we look at that opening phrase, right, there's some stuff that's going on there that's really cool, right? The chord progression is E flat, and then B flat over D, and then C, right? So he starts on a B flat note, starts on the fifth of the E flat, right? Which is a nice note to start on, right? A lot of times people start their solos on the root note, and it's boring. Start on the fifth, start on the third, start on the seventh. Like find a better note. So it's a great note to start on, and then, right? We've got this slide up to the E flat. We're in the key of E flat. We're sliding up to it, bending up to a G. Now we end on a B flat note when we hit that chord, right? And then, right, he's hitting a C. So he's really he's starting with a B flat note, the fifth of the first chord. Second chord, he's hitting the root note, but the root note, it's really a B flat over a D. So the B flat note is that instead, right? And then the C note, right? By the time he hits this F note, those are the chords that are happening underneath, right? So it's an F note. He's hit an F note, right? So it's a C minor chord by now. F note on the F chord, and then up to a C again when it's going to hit by then. Whatever that phrase is, or something like that. And then the next chord, we're back to the E flat, but starting from the B flat and playing E flat major, up B flat to B flat. Again, up to the C. That's the C chord. And then this great phrase, which sounds like a vocal melody, doesn't it? I've heard Brian talk about that and say that he plays like he was thinking of what had happened with the vocal beforehand, and he was trying to, like a continuation of it. And there's the interesting note, right? Because it goes, the phrase goes down chromatically to an A note, so he wants to. So all in all, C minor chord, F, C, B flat, right? E flat, C, back to the F, and at that point we're at the D flat, and he's on a D flat note, right? So you can see that there's some very clever, well thought out note choices. It's not just random, it's not just, I'd say he may well have improvised this, I don't actually know, but I'd say that he probably very carefully calculated. Now, what can we learn to do to put this into our own playing? Well, what you can do is whatever chord progression you're playing over, say it's we're in the key of G, and we might have G, E minor, A, D, like a classic 1-6-2-5, like in an old R&B tune. Well, we might decide on the G chord we're going to start on the fifth, just like Brian did. On the E minor chord we're going to hit a E, right? On the A minor chord we're going to hit I don't know, let's go with the fifth again, an E note again, and then on the D chord we're going to hit a D, just like Brian did. You know, he went fifth to root, fifth to root. So our phrase might be over that. Right? And we can do that with any particular song that we're playing on, right? Being like using these target notes, which is what I've talked about them before in a bunch of these videos. That's really what Brian's doing, isn't it? He's hitting target notes. Target note of the fifth, of the B flat, which is the root note of the chord, even though it's B flat over D. Yeah, and then a C note, right? Target note of the F because the chord's F. B flat, right? The chord's B flat. And so using target notes in your soloing is a really great way of kind of making sure you're playing something that relates to what's going on underneath your solo. And I find that's a lot of time with a lot of rock players, that's something they don't consider. Now jazz guys do. Jazz guys talk about playing chord changes all the time, but the rock guys not so much often. They might use pentatonic over the whole thing and just kind of float over the changes, and that's really cool. If you play a good solo, great. But this is the reason I think Brian May is separated from everybody else, right? To me, he's probably the greatest rock guitar player that's ever lived. He's one of my favorites. I thought I'd do some more of these breakdowns of these sort of solos and things. So I've done a little bit of brick in the wall in one of my other videos, and maybe I should talk about that a little further. Hotel California would be a good one to do, wouldn't it? If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I'm really appreciating the fact that everybody's subscribing and watching what I'm doing here. My name's Nick Granville. I'm a Wellington-based guitar player, Wellington, New Zealand. I play guitar for a living. This is what I do. I play this thing. And I do sessions, I do recordings, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, if you've got some value in this, please subscribe. So that guitar sound, I got a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb. It's a Fender amp with a BB preamp in the Fractal. Hope you found this useful. Appreciate you watching. Cheers.